Hey Terrarian, boy do I have a treat for you guys today. I have a 2 times Slayer sword, 12 golden demons, and multiple Best of Show award winner. It's none other than the legendary Alfonso Banshee Giraldes, pioneer in the industry.
Because I've seen things that you could not imagine. And people can trust me or not, is their problem. I've seen in a World Expo, the chief of the judge of the jury getting the trophy. What the fuck? I became like a grandpa. It's like, now I see my rivals and I just see how beautiful they paint. These motherfuckers are so good. I love what they do. Painting is masturbation for me.
Our chat was longer than the usual, but I promise you, it will be insightful, interesting, and definitely entertaining. Buckle up and put on your headphones. What is it that got you started into miniature painting?
And at some point when I was 12 years old, I started collecting warhammer with my friends. So that was the starting point, like many other painters. And then it happened that the thing that I did the best was my painting, so that was the thing that I enjoyed the most. And also because I was always inclined to artistic path in my life, like drawing, and I also did some sculpting, and I was always very interested in every form of art. So yeah, it was like it was a very natural introduction to something as a hobby, and then I stopped doing it for a while when I got 16 years old, and like the life of a teenager, discovering other more exciting things than miniatures. And then afterwards, when I started in the university, I needed a job, and I remembered these little toys that I liked so much. So I sent my CV to Games Workshop to work in a shop, and then I reconnected there with the miniatures, and from the store. Then it was like a very natural reconnection with the Golden Demon and everything else. And from there, I just restarted, and then it happened naturally. It's like difficult to tell you on a specific thing that made me move into miniatures as a professional career, because it was something very natural, and it happened that I was naturally
Drawn to it.
yeah. Maybe I was gifted for art in general. So this was like a field that was still unexplored, because we are talking about the beginning of the 2000s, and there weren't fantasy miniature companies aside from the wargaming industry. So when I started to reconnect with the Golden Demon, with the competition idea, and trying to paint in a much higher level, seeing the heroes of my period, of the winners of the 90s and the early 2000s, Slash War winner and Golden Demon winners, and that somehow gave me the willingness to be like them and to participate in Golden Demon. So that was the fire, the sparkling moment.
I see. So did you like study, like in terms of your studying, did you like study art when you were in your...
I studied advertisement and a master degree on graphic design. But since I was little, I was participating in drawing contests and winning them. I was already painting miniatures. It was something that I did pretty well for that time. So it was something natural to me, and it just happened like this, that one thing bring the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And when I look back, it was already, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years since I started working semi-professionally, working for collectors, and then I entered in different companies such as Andrea Miniatures, Night Models. So I've been working professionally, just like doing miniatures since 2000, 2003 to 2004, something like this.
That's
It's already 20 years.
Yeah, that's a long
That,
time. I was about to say.
that's why it's difficult for me to travel back to those memories, because even to place them in the right order is not simple. I have, my brain is blurry when I think about my beginnings.
I see. I see. Always moving forward. I see.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I've noticed that you've also done like not because a lot of it, a lot of your work now is based on miniature painting and teaching miniature painting, but I've also noticed you've done sculpts and you also do 2D illustrations and stuff like that. How do you see that? Being able to sculpt, being able to do some illustrations, how has that helped you, in your artistic journey?
Everything, because my concept of how an artist should be is a concept that comes from the Renaissance. I really think that a complete artist should be able to express himself in every possible way. So I not only paint, but I also do digital painting. I have painted in canvas. I have drawn a lot. I have done a lot of sculpting as well. I write the text of all the characters that I design. So all of them, they have a storytelling. And however, I'm not, of course, I'm not a professional writer, but I'm also able to express myself in a decent way, And this is, I think, that due to my obsession of somehow being able to put my soul in every project, in every little part of the project, to the point that after a few years, I started developing also an art direction task, which allows me to sculpt with somebody else's hands and to influence somebody else's brains, and to be able to do more efficiently what I couldn't do just by myself because of the lack of time, or the lack of skills, or the lack of practice, mainly because I have done paid work, so professional job in every single of these fields, but of course there is no enough time in life to masterize every field, But it's so true that, in my opinion, being able to understand at least all the things and the problems that can happen, and the issues that you have to resolve in every different field, will make you a better artist, because you are more complete. And I think that there are two kinds of artists: the ones that are focused only in one field, and then they have to be the number one in that field, because otherwise they don't highlight. Or you can be a more complete artist, who does everything to a very decent level of execution and understanding as well. And that's my case. I think that I would never be able to be the best in anything, but I think that I'm pretty good in almost everything related with art or expression, if you can say so. Because to me, the concept of art is very vague. It's something that is not a clear concept. Something that I don't think that anybody can be able to define properly.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, because it was similar to what I used to do before in the high-end collectible. Is like I used to work with other artists and give them direction in terms of doing the various projects, and I myself sometimes struggle to figure out, like, okay, should I focus on just one of my skills, or I can sculpt, I can paint, but is it better for me to go one direction or the other? But I seem to enjoy both of them, and I think you're right that when it comes to being an artist, if the more ways of expressing yourself there are, the more, I guess, we enjoy the process, I guess.
And also because all the artists that I admire in every single field, from music to cooking to whatever you can imagine, are the ones that are versatile enough to provide me different experiences. So, for example, I could enjoy a film director, but if he does always the exact same idea or the exact same theme, then it became boring with the time. And of course, that's a very personal point, because there are some people that are so much obsessed with one single path that they cannot see any other. And I'm not saying they are not great artists or they cannot be great artists, but I think that every person has his own way to gather his own toolbox, his own experiences that makes him be more accomplished as an artist, And in my case, I am a guy that loves to have experiences, and indeed the grayish point of my life is when I don't have experiences, when my routine, my day by day, is quite the same, is when I don't enjoy living, so I think that I feed myself with those experiences, and I always need to be challenging myself to a point that when I control something, I need to move on and try other things, So, and of course, you never control completely something, but it's true that the higher are your skills in certain field, the more difficult is to reach the next level, And also, when you are in a certain stage that nothing feels challenging for you unless you search for very specific exercises. And I could give you a better example with someone with the physicality, with the training aptitudes. If you are a professional sportman, of course you can always improve, but you are already in your peak when you are working, because your body it's at your peak. So you can do the exact same thing for the rest of your life, or you can jump from one sport to another to be able to have challenges and movements or ways of training or goals that you were not used to them, so that you can have this excitement of facing a new problem, So at the end, it's like resolving new quizzes or new problems that makes you clever, and that also enlarge your taste. It's like tasting new flavors.
Yeah, expanding the perspective and experiences, I guess. Yeah, I can totally relate to that, because it's the same for me. When I came from my usual field to miniatures, I realized there's so many things to learn, so many things to experience. And even though I have some experience as an artist, it almost felt like I'm a new student in something new, and there's so much I can learn. Yeah, for sure. So, like, talking about your ways of exploring all the different artistic mediums, you also have like emphasis on theory, use of color theory and concepts in your work. I noticed that in like some of your videos where you specifically talk about using like painting with emotion, and using the concept of the character design, or using the color theories to use when you are doing your work. So, like, do you want to elaborate a bit around that, those ideas?
Well, I think that the miniature world it has a big lack of foundations, because it's a very accessible world that everyone that has certain skills to paint or a certain good taste can quickly become a highlight, and being recognized by the community. But the problems that I face, and it's something that I faced over the last 20 years, because since I started giving classes. And now, after so many years traveling the world and teaching and having so many students that they are actually, nowadays, they are top painters in the world. And I've seen that there is a general lack of two things. One is foundations in terms of theory, which is important. And another one, or I would say three. Another one is lack of culture. Many people are passionate about miniatures, but they are not used to go to museums. They don't consume any other art. They are not interested in, I don't know, in classical painters. They're just not interested at all, And then the third thing is also the capability to look aside, to the capability to look out of the box of the miniature world, because the miniature world is beautiful, but it's very absorbent, So I just try to bring the knowledge that I've been gathering for all my life, because since I was a little boy, my parents took me to so many museums, and they were always insisting in the necessity to understand the history of art, of the human art, as one of the foundations of our culture, you know. And I am from Europe, so I mean from Spain more specifically, which is a country of artists. So I think that is my duty somehow to try to bring those concepts to the miniature world, because first of all they match and they help you to learn, and because there's always a reason, you know. It's like, I can give you a very good example. Nowadays you have all these people obsessed by the perfect non-metallic, considering that this is a technique or a way to do things, when non-metallic, it was not even a question back in the 18th or 17th or 16th century, because that was the only way to represent reflective elements, you know. And suddenly this happened 20 years ago in the miniature world, and all the people of the old school, especially from the historical side, that they were used to work with enamels or acrylics, but painting elements with real metal pigments, you know, like whatever, like chainmail, bolt gun, you know, all those colors that are metallic pigments. And they thought that what we were proposing, it was almost like a heresy, you know, when it's just the natural way of
Painting.
You know. And nobody would put in doubt that Rembrandt or Velázquez are more historical than the historical painters in the miniature world, you know. Yeah. Those are like, they are very useless conversations, because you have the people who are able and who are willing to open their brains, eyes, ears, and learn from someone who knows more than them, and that also proves that can apply this knowledge into his own paintings. And then you have the people who just reject them, you know, because they just want the copy-paste method, the formula, which is a step-by-step process. And this is how we have been born, you know, because the miniature world is a world of mainly modelers that at some point, some of them, we move into an artistic approach, you know. But the artistic approach cannot be without an open-minded mentality. And that's the point, you know. It's like, if you really want to learn how to play with colors, instead of learning recipes of how to play with purple and learn it almost mathematically, like, yeah, purple works very well with yellow, and purple also works very well with lime green, and also plays very well with orange. But why? You know, that's the point. Like, if you know the reasons behind the why things works better or worse, then you will be more able to execute it better, because at the end, art is a language. Painting is a language, you know. Any art is a language. And this is the same as me talking in English. I will not be as expert, as fluent as I will be speaking in Spanish, because my mother tongue is Spanish, right? So what I've done is I have turned my art skills into another mother tongue, you know. So I can express myself through brushstrokes, and I can express myself through colors. And then I can give you a certain theories that can guide you to discover your own mathematic to interpret this world. Because this is like words. You can say something in one way, and it will mean one thing, but you can say the exact same sentence with a different tone, and it means a completely different thing. Like, for example, in Spanish, we used to insult each other to greet each other, you know, to say hello, right? Something like that, insult, but you say, hey, you son of, you, right? And that's a funny and very friendly way to say hello to a friend, right? Well, if you just read it out of context, this is an insult, you know what I mean? But this is the beauty of any expression language, which is that it's versatile. It means 2 + 2 not always means 4. It depends on the context. It depends on the tone that you use to add more or to reduce more flavor from that sentence, if you know what I mean. And that means that you can apply this idea to painting, to sculpting, to drawing. That's why we have amazing wonders like I don't know, like cartoons like Pixar, where you can see toys moving, cartoons moving that are hyper exaggerated and that they can touch your heart and you can feel some super deep emotion seeing an abstract character on a movie, sometimes even more than seeing a real human crying, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why is because they have transcended the barriers of the language, and they have been able to express what they want to express through shapes, colors, ambiances, narrative, rhythm, and everything else. And we could do the same with the drawing, we can do the same with the painting, we could do the same with the sculpting, but you need to be willing to learn and to be able to read between lines, not just read literally.
Yeah.
And that's also the main issue of it, because some people are like, they have a shield against that, because for the majority of the people, what is easier is to learn 1, 2, 3 in order, and say first base coat, then 3 layers of this color, that color, that color. But you know what happened? That I can create any color within seconds. And the reason why is not because I am a genius, it's just because I am a painter.
Yeah.
And a painter is supposed to control the pigment so that you can create every single note and every single word of the vocabulary of painting. While when you only have a few words, you can always do the same kind of sentences. That's the reason why me in English, because I'm not a very good English speaker, I don't have the subtlety and the nuances that I could speak in Spanish. So sometimes I make analogies that takes longer and might be more boring for some people, but at least I can reach more audience by saying the same thing in different ways. So that's a way to solve my lack of words, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I totally understand, because I think one of the things I also try to promote in my YouTube channel is that, like, I every project that I do, I only use the primary colors, and I create every different color using just the basic primary colors of red, blue, yellow, and white and black. So I control the tones using white and black, and red, blue, yellow, it gives me any shade that any color that I want. So that's the thing I try to tell people, is that you don't need like shelves and shelves of paint that people usually have on their desk when it comes to painting. If you understand the basics, like fundamentals of color, at least the basic of color theory, color mixing, you can actually create a lot more variety of palettes for yourself. And I think it goes back to what you were saying, is that, it's not about following a recipe to cook a dish. It's more like understanding what ingredient does what. And then
and also, because if you remember the dishes that your grandma or your mom did to you, the reason why they were so tasty, it was because of the context. So everyone's mom's recipe is the best because you attach this memory to your childhood, to a moment of joy, to to your family, and that is an extra emotion, an extra feeling. The problem is that emotions cannot be put in drawers. It's not like that,
Yeah.
But you need drawers in your brain to be able to organize yourself to a point that then you can feel more free in order to do freestyle. And there are many examples, like jazz musicians, I don't know, UFC fighters. You can practice the same kick or punch 100 million times, and then when the combat happens, then you improvise because you know patterns, of course. But at some point you have to relate and respond to somebody else's creativity, and that is what happens when you talk with the figure. Like the figure is proposing you things, and maybe something that you had on mind, it's the opposite to what you are feeling right now, to what the momentary light that you have in the environment is proposing you. So to me, something artistic is always like a constant conversation, and that is what feels more nutritious to me, which is that I am in a constant talk with my own artworks, and I am ductile, I am versatile enough so that I can adapt myself to what happened, which is at the end is life, And some people, me in my case, I'm very much worse adapting to life than adapting to painting, So painting is like my safe place where no matter what happened, I will never be scared. I will never be afraid. I will always find one solution that might not be the best, might be maybe worse than the previous thing that happened to my mind, or might be improved in the further steps. But it's this constant conversation that keeps me attached to the excitement of creating something, you know? And the thing again is there is a kind of disconnection between the idea of having some rules and then doing freestyle and improvisation. But the thing is that the color theory is a theory, and there are theories, not one theory. So it's not a law. It doesn't work like this. The same color that means one thing in one side of the Western civilization might mean completely the opposite in the Eastern civilization. And the reason is the context, you know, that had created those meanings for each word, let's say. The same as in some parts of the world, kissing is friendly, and in some other parts of the world, kissing is almost like an aggression, you know? So that means that humans, we have grown up with different contexts that has made us understand the world in different ways. And that's the beauty of mankind. That's the beauty, that not everybody thinks the same way, right? So to all the people that are searching for the formula, like, of course you can be a copycat and everyone can do the same non-metallic sword that looks like a chess game, like light shadow, light shadow, light shadow, light shadow, light shadow, you know. But this is fake, because this is another copycat of a copycat of a copycat. You know what I mean? Whereas when you see somebody who has his own identity, it's something refreshing. And that's why some people, because this is a very small world. Every small world lives out of gossiping, you know, and bitching and talking shit and talking without knowledge, because the guys who have real knowledge, they are able to represent that knowledge and to explain that knowledge without being afraid. You know what I mean? Because there is nothing to be afraid of, right? And that's why when someone appears new, the reason why somebody highlights and some others they don't is not because of the final outcome and how polished is the figure or how well rendered it is or how good they make a gradient, which is something that any classical artist will say, like, okay, so what? You can make a gradient. So what? Okay, so what's the point of this? You know, if it happens that somebody like Moses Yao, for example, appears suddenly and suddenly he becomes one of the most renowned artists, it's not a matter of lucky. It's just a matter of someone who finds an identity and that can inspire himself even by copying others, you know, but that at the end he's able to create his own identity, his own way of understanding the world and representing his own whatever internal worlds, feelings, attitude through life. And when you depict the most memorable painters of any field, they are always the ones who are very unique and that have very big personality, in my opinion. So like any language is related to the way you express yourself is related to the way of how you are, right? So it's at the end is this connection of the foundations, like the basics that you need to know to start playing with the like grammar, vocabulary, and start to build up your first sentences, and then be courageous enough to take your backpack, travel the world of life and miniatures and painting and whatever, and try to express yourself in the way that you want. And then eventually you will find yourself in a position where you are finally representing your own personality in your paintings. Sorry, I talk too much.
No, it's great because you actually answered a lot of my questions in that long conversation. Because I was going to ask you things like what do you see is the common issues with miniature painters who are starting out or beginners, things like that. So it's really great, and also a lot of the things that you said is very resonates with me, because I also do some teaching. I always tell my students, because students always ask me, what are the steps and what are the formula, what you're talking about. But I always say, if you know the fundamentals, you will make your own. You will make your own judgments, and if you just copy steps, you are just copying. But if you we are all individuals, and we all have our unique experiences and personalities that we can express through our work, and it will come through once you have a strong foundation. And that's why the foundations are more important than anything else. So yeah,
You know what happened is that I think that the world that we live right now, unfortunately, goes so fast, and we have so many inputs that, especially the new generations, are used to search for the clickbait method that solve any situation. It's like now humans, we're selling the idea that you can get rich just by not being expert in anything. Exactly. This free workshop in 15 minutes that will lead you to be the best crypto bro in the world. And the problem is that this is bullshit, because our whole civilization is based on the opposite, and all the brightest minds in the history, they are based on sacrifice, hard work, dedication, and also it's an exchange where you lose things. It's like that's happening to me right now. I am now worse as an artist than what it was 10 years ago, because now I have a 4-year-old baby, and that means that I cannot commit myself to 100% to the thing that I like, because it happened that there is something else that is little that I like it more than my art. You know what I mean? So there is this conflict, and that's why my creativity goes down. My ideas, the way I work is more mechanical and is more robotic. But the point is that I have been working my art skills for more than 20 years, because I'll say 20 years professionally, but since I have memories, since I was 10 years old, I've been analyzing things, because I remember my father taking me to the museums and forcing me to understand and to appreciate, Of course, a 10-year-old boy, normally he will see a virgin from whoever, from El Greco, or a picture of some boys playing in the beach from Sorolla, and he won't be interested, because you will be more interested in Dragon Ball, Ninja Turtles, or whatever. But you know what? That my father was able to tell me, hey, this that you like, Dragon Ball, Ninja Turtles, whatever, this has its own roots, and that started there for whatever reason. You know what I mean? So when you find someone who is inspiring, and for this I thank to my dad for all my life, when you find someone who inspires you to dig and to be able to appreciate things without prejudging, this is when you start learning, because this is like all the people who say, no, I don't like raw fish. Okay, but can you try sushi? No, I don't like raw fish. The idea makes me vomit. Bro, you don't know what amazing experience you are missing for not trying this. Try it first, and then if you don't like it, at least you know that you don't like it. But you cannot say, I don't like this, and then I exclude from my experience, especially if you want to be an artist. Because an artist needs to suffer. An artist needs to enjoy at his maximum. An artist should feel betrayed, should feel love, should feel frustrated, should be, because this is our fuel. So if you are just a guy who is replicating the last PDF from El Miniaturista, and that's it, and I say this name because he's like the most successful, probably, painter who teaches his method, which is great. I don't criticize this. Indeed, I like him a lot. Greetings for Juan. I like him a lot, and I think that he is clever. He is a businessman with brilliant ideas. He's super good at advertising. He's very funny. He's very nice. Has a lot of skills that I admire, right? But the problem is that when you are the student who only wants this specific method, because then you are going to be chained and locked forever into a gold cage, depending on what will be the new tutorial. And that's why I do the opposite, which is financially considerably less successful, for sure. And somehow I have decided my own course, but the way I teach is by showing everything. So if you see the tutorials on the academy, on miniatureart.com, you will see that I show you my mistakes, all my failures. I show you how I solve it. I show you my thinking when I video react them, the videos, saying, here, I've done this step, and I think that it was better before. Because we tend to think in this, I think, that silly world where we live right now, that all the successful people are based on steps of success all the time. And that's not true.
Yeah, people only see the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. It's like but the problem is what they tell you. Because if someone will tell you that you will paint like me with 20 years of experience within one weekend, this guy is lying you. And then you can see all those people teaching, and you see workshops where all the students get the same exact result. Amazing. So they paint like the non-metallic as perfect as the best non-metallic painter in the world, but never again, only on the workshop. So my way of thinking is, I prefer to teach you how to fish, not to give you the fish. Because if I give you the fish, I get great pictures for advertising me as a teacher and my academy. But I will not be truthful or reliable for a student, in my opinion. So I prefer to poke you, to pinch you, and to make you suffer a little bit, to make you understand that you cannot take knowledge for granted. Knowledge is something that you get it hard. It's difficult to get it. You need time. You need time of that experience to settle it down. You need many inputs. Man, I am super fat right now. I know how to eat. You know how many times I've talked with nutritionists or people who knows about, or people that are super fit, and then I know what I shouldn't eat. But you know what happened? That when I'm anxious, I take chocolate. So of course I'm gonna be fat. But the point is not to know what you have to do, instead of to be able and be ready to apply that knowledge. And sometimes to be able to apply that knowledge, you need to crash a few times, and that's a fact. That's the fact of human being, in my opinion.
Now, because of social media and the internet nowadays, you only see the good things, but you kind of are not shown what the human experience is like, which is a mixture of emotions, experiences, and frustrations and failures. Especially when you see all the younger people being exposed to that. I personally think that a person shouldn't be on social media until they're like 16 or 18 years old, because
I would agree
because it really hampers one's mental development, not making them realize what life has to offer rather than what social media shows them.
Well, it happens to us with our age. Like some days I am scrolling down and thinking, what the fuck? I could be learning digital sculpting that I will be like, potentially it will give me more income, and I will be faster, either sculpting myself or art directing others. But at the very end, it's like we all have the same tendencies, and that's why it's so dangerous to simplify something as varied, as complex, as tasteful and enjoyable, and and that with so many possibilities as a language is. You cannot say learn English in 15 days. Well, you could learn some English to survive, or to, I don't know, not die in the street, alone and without a shelter. But you will not learn the capability to express yourself the same way as you express yourself in your own language within 15 days. That makes no sense. But if you get some fundamentals from there, and then you are courageous enough to try, and then you travel, and then you play experiences like role plays. That's why I love to paint many like quick exercises, because that gives me enough training to overcome different problems. Some people, they prefer to paint one model during 8 months, and that's great if they like it. I will kill myself if I have to paint one single model for 8 months. It will be like the most boring experience of my life. I don't want to do nothing during 8 months. Sometimes it's true that some works, especially when you are committed to a certain level of demanding, certain level of clients or companies or whatever, or collectors, And some of my works are, I don't know, 150 hours. That's a lot, right? But the soul of what I am painting, normally it's created within 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, maybe less than one session of painting. Why? Because this is the raw ingredient. This is the raw meaning of what I want to say. And I could want to tell you that you are super sexy and that I love you, right? But maybe I need to find the way that this message arrives to you in the best possible way, right?
Yep.
And that takes time, of course. But I think that the best or the most sincere forms of expression are very raw, very straightforward, right?
Yep.
And of course, to be able to play fast and efficiently, you need to have a very nice tool set so that you can take different tools metaphorically, and play with them in different ways to adapt yourself to what's going on the process.
That's right. If you could teach one thing to an artist or painter or whatever it is, what would that be? Like, I mean, I'm sure it will be along this line what you have talked about so far, but if there's just one thing that you would like to impart onto a student.
That's a very good question and a very difficult one, because I will think that the logic will tell me to observe, because most people, they see but they don't observe. But the truth is that I think that observing is something that with the time, when you age, you became a better observer due to the nature of life. It's like you need to be like that, because you cannot be always the highlight. You are not in front anymore at some point. You know what I mean? When you are young, you are always highlighting. It's like everything is effervescent, But if I have to choose one, it would be probably to be honest with your way of being, to be honest with yourself in a way how you express yourself. I am 100% myself when it comes to paint, and when I have had to paint in a different way because of the task that I was forced to do, for a client or a company, whatever, my work was considerably worse. So I think that my best works are the ones where I have done whatever I wanted. This is difficult because we live in a world where expressing yourself freely, it has negative consequences, and that has happened to me in my life many times. So I don't know if this is what I will advise to my son, because I don't want him to suffer. So probably I will advise him not to be an artist. But if he wants to be an artist, I will tell him, son, like, be sincere to yourself and express yourself raw. Explore, explore your way of expressing yourself. Like anything you have in your guts, you need to be able to vomit, because that's the most honest and sincere form of expression.
I think that's a very good advice, because I also feel that if a person is not able to express themselves, they are not truly happy. No matter what no matter what profession or what way of life they have. I think once you stop someone, or when you restrict someone to be unable to express themselves, they will be not really happy in the long run. So, I mean, over the years, you've done a lot of work, obviously, for your personal work, for the works you've done with students, for students, for companies as well. Is there any particular one that is very memorable for you, or something that you really enjoy?
The problem is that if I named you like the classic ones because this question I've been asked many times, and I will always say like the same ones, because they were a level up in my career, when I somehow gather a concept or a group of knowledge that I already had in my brain, but finally I settle it down, and that makes you, because I think that the knowledge grows by like concentric circles, like boop boop boop. So I think that everything is interconnected. But honestly, I think that from the last ones, because after 20 years, I've done so many things that it's difficult to stay attached to the painting that I did for Night Models in 2012, because it's too far away from here, right? So I will say that one of them that was, I don't find the word in Spanish, fracaso, a failure, no? Like, yeah, failure, like a flop, no? Or a fiasco, which was the Kickstarter that I created for Scale 75, the Historics range, which is a range of cartoonish figures based on historical references or historical stereotypes. I think that is, however, the numbers were not good enough, and from a financial point of view, probably like the company would think that it was a failure. I think that I honestly believe that the models are amazing, because I use them a lot in workshops, and people have an amazing experience because they were created in a way to provide the people a surface so that they don't have to be constrained by the numerous details that we normally have in miniatures, and they can just focus on understanding the volumetry and playing with the very characterful expressions and the very characterful attitudes of one of these each 21 models that we created under my art direction and my original idea. And I think that also because my team with Victor Aguilar, the sculptor, was very productive, and we finally get to know each other very well, so that we can, I mean, it's like finding someone who is a great couple that can understand also my personality, which is not a simple personality. I'm a difficult person, to be honest, to deal with, especially when it comes to the demanding results, because I am super obsessive and I want things in a very specific way. So that would be one. And the other one, which is more emotional to me, is a miniature that I designed also for Scale 75, which is called The Thinker. It's an old man thinking. And this is a tribute to my father, who is sadly is very ill. He has a very late stage of Alzheimer, and
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, and it's difficult to deal with that, because it's like an empty shell. Sometimes, well, he doesn't know who I am, and this is something difficult. So that was somehow my way to say thank you as an homage to him, because he's the person who has taught me more things in my life, alongside with my mother, but especially I am an artist because of my father. So when I was a baby and he was feeding me, he was drawing me animals and whatever, like knights and soldiers and things. So I think that my brain and my creativity is how it is because of him. So that's probably the figure that I would love to have in my cabinet if I could. Unfortunately, it doesn't belong to me. But the process of creating that character, directing the sculptor, and then painting it, and everything, it's also explained in the Miniature Art Academy, the full tutorial. And somehow it's like very introspective, and it's one of those examples of what I said about talking with the painting words, like expressing yourself and dealing with your feelings, pain, joy, whatever it is, through the painting process. And somehow it was healing somehow. And I think that is a memorable figure, and I'm very proud of it. I think it honestly is I think this is one of the few pieces of art that I've done in my life because of that.
Is there any specific, like, when it comes to starting a project for you? Like, is there any specific methodologies something that you like to do before you start a project?
I don't have like those patterns, or I don't know, like routinary methods, because it changes every time, like sometimes I'm more expressive and I just take a model and start throwing color on it. And then at some point I see something and I follow what the model is proposing me. That's the one that I enjoy the most. But it depends on the kind of commission or project it is, like fortunately most of the things that I sell, I create them because I want to, it's not a commission. But when it is a commission, and there is a previous talk about what the customer, company slash collector, whatever demands, then I am more structurized, especially if it's more historically accurate, or something that I need to make a proper documentation process prior to the painting or sculpting,
Yeah.
But normally also that's the reason why it takes me so much time, I'm not very efficient unless I force myself to do it. But in this case, I'm lazy because this is not how I like to proceed. Like I prefer
More
to
organic, I presume.
yeah, I prefer to go with the flow and create from scratch. But if I have a deadline to match, then I am able to connect with the young painter that had to work inside of the companies and following certain methodologies because that was required by my boss or manager, and because I've been in many companies like this, from Andrea Miniatures, Night Models, Forge Wall, I know those methods and I can apply them to myself. And I think I do the same with the artistic with the art direction, because every artist is very different and the same method doesn't work well with every artist. Indeed, I think that this is probably the field where I have much more to learn and to improve, because at first I think I was a pretty good art director in terms of guiding them to find the best execution, but I think I was not good enough to use empathy to understand their own feelings. So I was very raw, very like straightforward, right? And lately I am trying to learn how to filter my words and do the opposite that I do as an artist, So as an artist, I will be brutal and expressive, and I don't give a shit about anything from the very first moment. But if I have to do an art direction task, I would, be more chill, more structurized, because some people need that, And that's we say caballo de batalla, battle horse. I don't know if there is a word for that in English, but it's like your challenge, let's say.
Yeah, I guess makes sense. You've participated in a lot of competitions before, like Golden Demons and things like that. So what would you advise an aspiring artist who wants to, bring their work to a competition level and participate in such events?
Do whatever you want.
Well said.
That's the best advice.
Yes.
But also understand the rules. The reason why I don't participate in Golden Demon anymore is because they force me to paint in a certain way that I don't want. And because I don't want to paint like this, maybe also I'm not good enough in this style. But even if I were, or if I was, it's not something that I enjoy. So like the reward of the award is not enough to sacrifice my own way of being or my own character, So I think that the best contest is the one that you enjoy.
Very well.
And this being said, I always do what I feel I have to do, and probably in a near future I will return to Golden Demon eventually, but because I have commissions that are related to that. So if I'm going to do a Warhammer model to a certain standard because it's paid enough to force me to accept it, let's say, that's something that had happened. Then I have to do my best in that way of painting, which is also a way of thinking, and then I will eventually enter. But I will not enter with any expectation of anything, I just use the competition. I will use the competition as an excuse to show it to the people, But I've never, I don't know, I have every kind of award, or almost every award that you can imagine. And my best success, like I have 2 Slayer swords, I have the Gran Maestro of Monte San Sabino, Best of Fantasy Monte San Sabino. Those awards happen naturally. I just did what I wanted to do in the way I wanted to do, and I put so much effort, sacrifice, and passion on it just because I wanted, because I felt that feeling. If I don't feel that feeling anymore, which is the case, I am actually not a contestant anymore. I don't have the energy. Like, for example, I could paint, and that happened to me many times. I paint something that objectively it's let's say like a gold level in Monte San Sabino, for instance, to put an example, no? Because that's the peak of the contest in the world. Is the best contest in the world by far is Monte San Sabino every year. And the level is amazing, no? But sometimes it happens that I see the model and I say, okay, that could get a gold, probably, but the back would get nothing because I'm not putting the same amount of effort everywhere. And finally, that's the reason why, like, I have a lot of friends asking me, like, why don't you come to Monte San Sabino? We miss you. The organizers that they used to invite me almost every year to do also some demos or participate in the show, because I'm being a very active member of the community for years. And I don't go anymore because I don't have the willingness to compete anymore. I don't think that I need to prove anything to myself, to be honest. I wish I have this fire inside again, because it's something very enjoyable, it's like this feeling of competition that I'm gonna be the best and I'm gonna beat this and this other one. And I became like a grandpa. It's like now I see my rivals and I just see how beautiful they paint, and I see what Mark Masclans does, or Eric Swinson, or Kirill Kanaev, or David Arroba, or Andy Wardell, or you can name, or now Lázaro, or whoever, or Aitami, and I just see them and I say, these motherfuckers are so good. I love what they do. I don't need to compete against them. It's like, if they like what I do, great. I'm grateful for that. If they express themselves and they tell me, sometimes they allow themselves to write a comment, and I feel good with that. But painting is masturbation for me, It's for my own self-pleasure.
Yeah.
And I don't care about them.
I've spoken to a few artists and gold winners, and they all say the same thing. It's like, just paint for yourself, paint what you enjoy, paint what you love. It's not about participation in a competition. Is not about the competition at all. It's mostly about maybe community and meeting people. But it's like the whole point of doing a piece for competition, it should be something very enjoyable for you. So yeah, there's no.
But I honestly doubt. I don't know who answered you this, but one thing is to say it. Another thing is the reality. Many people tell you this, and then they are 3 hours in front of the cabinet to see if they have selected their model.
But I've seen people who have participated and did not get any medals, and then they are unhappy because they put in so much hours and put in so much effort, and then they feel disappointed and they talk about it online. But I have also seen artists who have won or didn't even expect to win, but they went there because they like. I think it also comes down to the level of work, because if you are true to yourself and actually do a work that you truly enjoy, the level does rise above the rest, I feel. Because if you're doing it for winning a competition, I think it's not going to be as good as someone who has truly enjoyed the work.
The problem is that this is, at the end, is a long-term relationship, because you spend a lot of time doing a competition model. If I think about my best of fantasy, it was a Hellboy piece. It's like a Hellboy diorama. This easily took 150 hours of work. You cannot keep the stamina for 150 hours. Even less if you spend like Albert Moreto, 8 months. You need to love it, If you don't love it, it's impossible to keep that level of excitement, right? The issue for me is that sometimes to win something, you need to please judges. Judges, that's a tricky thing. Judges that most of the time are not, they just don't want to express themselves or to feel or to be open about their decisions. Make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the main reasons why I also don't participate, because I've been inside of every contest that you can imagine as a jury. I've been jury of Monte San Sabino, Golden Demon France, Golden Demon Spain, Crystal Brush, Ingolstadt, Soldat de Plom. I don't know, many contests, almost everyone. So what's the thing? I know how people judge. There are great judges and there are bad judges, like everywhere. You know what I mean? And the point is that sometimes it feels like something even random to a point. I think that a fair system would be the system that allows the people to interact with the judges. The system that forces the judges, as this is a professional duty. When I am invited to a contest, I am paid to be a judge. They can pay me in food. I'm very cheap. Well, not now because I eat a lot, but they can pay me with my flight. They can pay me with accommodation, and they can pay me with friendship and love. I don't care. The fact is that I'm doing a professional job because it's my prestige what happens there, right? What is in front of me. I don't care who am I judging to. I have judged people that I honestly hate. Everyone has his friends and people that don't like. There are people, of course, like in every field, because the manager world is a little bit naive. It's like, how can you think that there is corruption in the judgment? Oh my God. And it's like, oh, how can you think that there is corruption in politics, in business world, in football, in fact, there is corruption everywhere. Why there will not be corruption in the miniature world, where it's such a niche world, such a small cake, and some people, in their hands, there is the possibility to favorize someone's against others, you know? And the problem of this is that if you don't force the judges to express themselves and to tell the crowd what are their logics behind their judging, what are their criteria, right? What you are doing, it's a curtain, a smoke curtain, right? Where anything can happen and the participant only get the result and that's it, without knowing anything, right? And then bullshit happens, right? This is like when you go to Golden Demon in the US, for instance, and suddenly you realize and someone tells you that the 3 judges, none of them are painters. What the fuck? Is this serious, you know, in a professional level contest? Or no, one of the judges is the encargado, the CEO or the guy who is in charge of the IP or the advertising. Of course, he's going to favorize favorize his own line of products. That's fucking obvious, right? Don't be innocent, right? So as long as you know that this thing happens, then is when you will enjoy the contest. Because I've seen things that you could not imagine. And, you know, people can trust me or not. It's their problem. I don't give a fuck. But the truth is that I've been in a World Expo. I've judged 3 World Expos. I've seen in a World Expo, the chief of the jury getting the trophy. What the fuck? In the World Expo, in the most important representation of our world, the chief of the jury is the winner of that contest. What the fuck? Even if he is the best painter in the world.
It's a conflict of interest.
Exactly. Either he's not the participant, or if he's a participant, he's not the chief of the jury. And that's obvious. But you know what happened? That this is a very small world where the same people are controlling the same positions forever. And when you enter in this circle, and they will deny me, of course, and indeed they don't invite me anymore for a reason, right? Because I don't care and I speak freely what I see, because I think it's wrong, right? When I have proposed them to different organizations, hey guys, why don't you film the judging moment? No, because some people are shy. What the fuck shy, brother? It's like you are invited to a contest to do a professional duty. You cannot be shy. It's like in work. It's like, no, you know, I don't want to present my product because I'm shy. Then you are fired, right? If you are able to not be shy to judge somebody else's pieces, you should be able to defend your criteria, whatever it is. And every criteria is valid. Everyone. But you should be able to express yourself, because then people will not get confused. People will know, okay, in Monte San Sabino, they are searching for whatever, creativity or technical skills or and also defining what means things. And this is a crusade that I've been doing for more than a decade, right? How is it possible that in 2024, brother, we are a world that produces amazing art quality with amazing sculptors that sculpt like Renaissance statues? There are many: Joaquin Palacios, Lucas Pina, Leila. There are some Victor. There are so many that there are amazing sculptors. How is it possible that we can see amazing paint jobs? Marmas Clans, Arnau Lázaro. You can choose the one you like, Magnus, whoever you like, with different styles, with different outcomes. Michal Pisarski, Kirill Kanaev, doing amazing art, and there is still not a vocabulary rather than is it clean or not? What the fuck? It's bullshit. This is such a big level of mindsets, right? That it surprised me, and that also bores me. Is boring. Why should you judge between, let's say, I can give you thousands of examples. You see, Marmas Clans. Marmas Clans is one of the people in the world, in the miniature world, top 3, 5 in the world. For me, top 2 in the world, the second best painter in the world, beside Kirill Kanaev, for me. And he's a friend of mine. He has been my student. But he's an amazing artist, right? And then when you see how the students of my classes define him, and they say, "Oh, Mark is so clean." Clean? You can see every brushstroke. But every brushstroke has a meaning. Every brushstroke is precise. He could be refined. He could be defined. He could be high render. He could be expressive. He could be whatever. He can have the best control of volumetry. But your description of something with this level of complexity is too clean, is very clean. It's bullshit. It's like judging. Imagine that we are judging movies and we judge The Godfather and Toy Story. Both are masterpieces, but you cannot compare them because they are different things. So we're in a moment of execution where we have the skills already to a Renaissance or a Baroque level. Light sources, ambience, drama, storytelling, composition, everything. And are you still judging if something is well blended or not? Like if Frazzetta was not valuable enough as a painter, or Monet because he doesn't blend anything? What the fuck? It's like, to me, it's stupid. But you know what hides this? The lack of knowledge. Because when someone has knowledge, when someone has, and I know that I will collect a few more haters, welcome, after this interview, but it's truly what I think. You know, I've been in this industry for more than 20 years and nothing has changed. Only the outcome, only that the pieces that we see nowadays are to a maximum level. But why my work, for not us talking about myself, why Arnau Lázaro's work is worse than Kirill Kanaev? It's different. It's just different. So if you're a true art lover, you can enjoy everything and you can judge beside your taste, right? And because of this, you are able to express yourself and to tell the crowd, hey guys, that's something so easy as taking the cell phone from the organization and say, hey, group of juries, what have you judged? What are you judging right now? Hey guys, it cannot be maybe live streaming to keep the secret, but you can launch it the next day. That was the judging process yesterday. That will be exciting. That will be something easy to spread, online. That will be something to learn from. That will be something to discover who is a good judge or who is not a good judge. That will be a good measurement to make things in a proper professional way. But you know why it doesn't happen? Because there are a lot of interest behind. And some of my best friends are part of this circus, right? And they tell me, oh, Alfonso, you talk too much. It's like, you always think that this is a kind of Masonic. No, I don't think that. I think that it's human. And that's it. And the best way to avoid the tendencies, the bad tendencies of the human nature is by setting up certain control, ethical control, And one of them is express yourself. Because if I have to prove you what do I think and why, then it will be less room to do things in the wrong way. But they are not interested in this. And when I have proposed this to them, they always say no. They say, okay, you can film the judging, but you cannot film it with sound. So then why the fuck I want to show 15 old guys doing this? I want the people to see what's going on inside. Why don't they make interviews? How easy is to make an interview? Why they don't do it? You know what? Because it's much easier to succeed in a niche world if you just shut up, don't say anything, and just go with the flow and collect your awards, and that's it. And be friend of everyone. But when you are like me, that has negative consequences. And I just accept them. And that's why I don't go to contests anymore. Because I don't feel welcome, and because I don't have the necessity to compete, honestly, I think that what I produce, I don't know if it's better or worse than Andy Wardell, Marmas Clans, or whoever you name. I just think it's beautiful enough for me and for my clients, and that's it. And eventually I will return, probably, because I also like to meet people that I love. But I think that the best advice after this super long speech is to realize what it is a contest. A contest in art makes no fucking sense. And that's the reason why, of course, everything is under politics. And if we know that the Oscars, they can be affected by sort of influences of what sells more or less, or what they want to promote or not. And that happens because we are living in the 2024, not in 1960. So we are not innocent anymore. And we know how the elections happen in the world and everything else is corrupted. People, miniatures will be a mirror of everything else in our society. Is the same. So just go, enjoy the vibes, the feeling, enjoy seeing pieces from amazing artists all over the world. And if you don't trust me, just check that I speak too much, but I name many other painters and artists because I think it's fair to pay them tribute because they are the guys who inspires me also, But I don't know if there are many interviewed people that will name many other people. Why? Because this is a very selfish path. This is, no, I do this and I compete and a system of that pretends to be artistic, that is based on trophies, is bullshit. It's just bullshit. Unless you can make transparent judges. And that will be the best, We could be in a glass judging naked, and telling our real ideas about why do I prefer something and not other thing. And that's it.
Yeah, I guess it is subjective, but if it is transparent, then it gives it more meaning, I guess, when it comes to the results.
You see how many controversies happen after the Golden Demon. Mm-hmm.
It's always there.
It's hilarious to see it from the outside. I can understand that you feel frustrated because you have, sculpted an amazing orc board rider, from this guy that came from Australia that was amazing and he didn't take place. What the fuck? That makes nonsense. But bro, you need to know that you are participating in the most unfair contest in the world, which is the Golden Demon. And it's not unfair because the winners are not worth it. No. The winners, most of the times, they are among the best, for sure. But the problem is that there is a company behind that will use that contest in his own benefit for what the fuck they want or they need. And that's not the fault of the participants. That's the fault. That's a consequence of a company using their tools, which is normal. I don't blame them because it's normal. If I was a company, I would do the same. And if I want to promote the idea that if you paint something completely out of the box, a flat space marine with just highlighted edges, and that's it. That could be one of the 2000s that appears in a box. It's not even the main character. It's just one of them, one random guy. And that deserves a gold in open category. Guys, there is no a bigger blind man than the ones that don't want to see. You know what I mean? So you could not make the blind man see more than if you look at things like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's obvious, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It's not important. And trust me, I love Golden Demon. I have 2 Slayer swords, 12 Golden Demons, 10 of them are gold, and I have enjoyed this period of my life more than anything else. And I still love the Golden Demon because it's very exciting, and I love the things that they are creating nowadays, that they're amazing. The last Slayer swords are amazing. But if you tell me, what do you teach to people? Alex Dos Santos, who was the last Slayer sword winner in the US, is my private student now, right? And he already paints so great. What can I teach him? I can teach him to open his mind. You know, I can teach him to observe and get some other influence to become a better artist, not to win more Golden Demons. That's the difference, right? And then eventually this will happen naturally as a consequence or not, but it doesn't depend on you. It depends on so many factors, you know what I mean? And if you don't want to accept this, and probably I will get a lot of negative comments saying like, oh, this is whatever, blah, 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 trust talker or whatever. I'm not saying anything, bro. I've been inside. I've been seeing inside. In 2006, I have judged 2 Golden Demons from inside. And I've seen the chief of the group, you know, saying, no, this cannot win because this is not, but because we need to sell this other thing. And I've seen this, not with these exact words, but I've seen this. I have seen it. You can trust me or not. But these are my facts, right? So it's normal because they are a company. Every time that there are interests behind something, you know, and then of course, there will be winners that they cannot deny, because this is like saying, oh, Albert Moreto won fairly. Of course, because he was the best. You know, it's like, he's so technically, then you can like it or not. That's a different thing. Me, for example, I don't like this kind of style. It's not my, but if I was a judge, I will say, that's objectively perfect. You know, from a technical perspective, does it moves me? No. Does it, can something else compete against that? For me, yes. Because if I find something that is not technically accurate or as perfect as this is, but maybe it moves me, or it has a better composition, or it's more complex in other terms, maybe it can compete. But of course, this thing will win because it's just too good. You know, this is like when you compare, I remember this conversation about the boxers, no, the best boxers of all time. And some people say, no, it's Mayweather, no, it's Mayweather because Mayweather is 15. And some others say, yeah, but Mayweather is boring. Yeah, but you cannot deny that he's perfect. You know what I mean? And then you can say, no, my favorite one is whoever, Mike Tyson, because he's more aggressive, he's more explosive. This is taste, like food. You cannot compare, it's about personal taste. But what you cannot deny are the numbers. And if something is just perfect, it will win because they are not going to, you know, hide this behind a curtain because everyone has seen that model. But in a competition area that where the rules are not so clear, not the description of the rules doesn't say exactly what, maybe they could say, no, but you know what? This Space Marine represents the best of our IP. And that's why we reward this and not this amazing piece, because that is out of the IP and this is perfectly representation of what we sell. Fair enough. And that's a valid criteria, you know? But in my opinion, things should be explained. Yeah. But of course, I'm silly, you know?
It's very insightful. I think my viewers will enjoy your experience and words. It's usually this segment of interview where I ask guests to actually give feedback on my work, on my latest work. So, you know, it allows me to learn something and also share something with the viewers that they can take away something from it.
I'm going to restrict my critique to the things that I think could be more useful for you to please somebody else, because it depends of where you come from. Because in the world of statues or things that are bigger, the way of painting is different. You know, they normally have a lack of dramatic light source and things like that. It's always more flat, because I think that the size makes you perceive the things in a different way. And I think that if you come from this field, that might affect you the way that you show your artwork. What I see is that it's interesting, the composition is interesting, but it's a little bit chaotic. I don't see a clear point of view. And this is a very personal perspective, because in miniatures, I always need to have a clear, identified view, because this is telling me what would you propose me as if you were a cinematographer and you were selecting the best view for that specific scene, if that makes sense, right? Well, if you allow me to rotate without being guided, then I might find wrong views, or views that are not as strong, or views that doesn't tell the storytelling as their best. No, I think that the Bloodthirster should be in a higher position. I think that, however, I'm seeing the first. I think it's the first one. Yeah, it's the first one. And I've seen the one that you face the Bloodthirster directly to the face. And I think that he has this kind of dramatic idea of manga, of this confrontation between the hero and the super big guy that is in the background that face him directly. I like that. I think that this is interesting. Also, the next view is quite interesting as well, where you can see the two of them facing each other. I think that those two are the main views. But I think that in general, the diorama is not helping me to have a good reading through the elements, if that makes sense. Also, the scenario is almost painted in the same way everywhere, So when I talk about directing the viewer towards the scene in the way that you want, I think that everything works for the composition. The light, the texture, the different way of painting, the definition against lack of definition. The same as on the photography, you cannot define everything at the same level, and that means that for focusing the face of him, you have to unfocus the running man, that goes towards him. This is a little bit like that, It's like, I think that with light and shadows, with more contrast, it will help you to drive the attention better. It's difficult to explain this with words without making a. Do you want me to do a quick drawing?
Oh, I mean, sure, I'm okay, but I don't want to trouble you.
So ideally, and of course, I'm not graphic designer.
No worries.
So I might be a little bit rough, but this is like a mock-up, an idea. I really like the spiral composition. I think it's very interesting. It gives a lot of movement. This is what I do to my private coaching students. It's something that helps me to give them a better example of what I want to say, because sometimes with words is not enough, and some things maybe with a lack of vocabulary is difficult to express. I would create a composition with him in a higher stance, in a higher, I don't know who is this guy, so I will imagine him. Oh, this is in the other layer, sorry, excuse me. I will probably build something like stairs or bricks or blocks of concrete, that creates kind of like spiral with movement, something like this.
So it can lead the eye towards him. Get what you mean?
Exactly. And then, I will do many things, but I will create variation, contrast. You see, it also will fit your effects of like explosion, and you will play with the narrative of the scenario as well, like creating brightest spots in certain areas and darker spots in some other areas. I will definitely darken even more this. Let's see, what is this? Wait a moment. I hope this is not boring.
No, not at all. I'm like being enlightened right now.
Also resaturate certain areas more.
Okay.
This is the path that the heroes goes through, right? And then probably I will place him not directly to confront him, instead of coming from this angle, to be able to see him also from the back a little bit. You know what I mean? Okay. So difficult to play with models that are facing each other, because a lateral composition is always very boring, and to overcome this problem, what we will do is to play with heights, and then the contrast will force you to have this direction towards the confrontation, right? And I think that for an element like that, for a diorama like this, also maybe creating something bigger, because the background doesn't offer you anything. I don't know, whatever, a brick, a wall with something, a church, whatever, maybe another explosion, because behind the bloodthirster is not interesting at all. You can just see his tail and the back of the wings. So I think it's more smart. I think it's smarter to hide this thing, because all the movement, you already have it on this kind of spiral, and the rotation of the elements that you are cleverly using. This is very interesting. It creates already and emphasize the idea of that direction. And probably I will play, I'm not sure of it, right? But I will play with maybe different elements. I don't know if maybe a chaos banner, whatever, floating here, or a Dark Angels banner floating, you know what I mean? Something behind, so that you get another element that places him in a certain scenario with a background, like if it was a theater, you know what I mean? You are creating the perspective and you are forcing the viewer to see the perspective as you want,
Yeah.
Exactly. And of course, this should be something that fits with the scenario and with the background, with the lore, no? With the idea, but it should not remove interest from the main character, who in this case is the bloodthirster. And if you want to give it more drama, also you can you can bring some more elements of the story. And with this I finish. Like, for example, some dead space marines, in his way, or elements that creates the idea of chaos, not only, or some other elements that creates variety, not only bricks of the same color being broken, because I think that it lacks a little bit of drama also in this regard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, to add a bit of contrast and break up in the same kind of environmental elements, I guess. You add some other elements inside, I guess. It will make it more interesting. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes.
The problem from a technical perspective is that the application of paint feels a little bit rough. But okay, so this is a good example. To me, this is almost like a kind of like green dark style, no?
Yeah.
Everything is very washed out. All the colors are moody. It's almost how I would paint a statue as well, right? But the problem is that in miniature painting, people will value the technical aspect a lot. And so it's a difficult question, because what is based on the criteria of the style and what is based on the criteria of doing or painting it in the best way that can impress the people, and that's a legit conversation, that I will not enter now. Sure. But I see a lot of lack of, because if you want to do something that they will enjoy, then you will have to do all the edges, like highlight everything. But this is their style. If that was me, I will do a volumetric interpretation. I will do focus, I will start subdividing all the elements. I will start creating enough contrast in many different areas, depending on what will be the focus that we are aiming for, and interpreting everything from a volumetrical perspective, like if it was an illustration from one specific point of view. However, you can do a full 3D illustration that consider different points of view. But in this case, I think that this diorama deserves more, like not one only unique point of view, but at least one main point of view. And that will affect completely the way you paint the entire thing, Okay. So it's not about making it right or wrong. It's just about a preference or a way of understanding the painting, So if you were my student, what I would do is ask you, like, what are you aiming for? What do you want to do? What's your goal? What will be your ideal style, and then I will maybe propose you different methods to reach to that goal. And if your goal is, I want to impress Golden Demon judges, that would be a completely different thing than if you tell me I want to do an image like a diorama that looks like an illustration. Then I will make you repaint it probably, you know. But if you tell me, no, I want to keep a certain idea of everything is painted in general, where I am treating every individual element just by the texture that it is represented by, like a statue, for example, then that will be a different thing. You know, it's like, what kind of style do you want to do? You want to do an impressionistic style? If it were painting, like classical painting, do you want to do a Baroque style? Is hyperrealism? Is abstract? It's like everything depends on different approaches. You know,
Yeah.
I will propose you different exercises. You know, something like to train different aspects with different exercises or homework, you know, because maybe a diorama like this, the idea is brilliant, it looks very cool, but it's so complex to apply advices, you know what I mean? It's very complex because it's too big and it has so many elements and many different considerations that all of them can lead you to a good result, but they have to be cohesive and consistent, you know?
I understand. Probably will work towards a particular goal, I guess. And I have to define what that goal is in some ways.
Okay.
Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time, and I really, really appreciate it. What are you waiting for? Slap the shit out of that button.